Here's a headline that I've been seeing over the last 2 to 3 days. And right off the bat, Lindsey Williams to be right again. He said that we would have this massive pool of oil larger than whatever on the face of the earth. We're going to be #1 oil producer, period. Headline. Multiple places, by the way. Headline. U.S. to be #1 gas producer by 2015. #1 oil producer by 2020. That's interesting. I mean, I thought, how does a nation that is required to get its oil from the Middle East because of the oil scare in the 1970s, hey, you remember those gas lines if you're old enough, those gas lines, that was no joke, man, that we ran out of oil and gas. And then now, 40 years later, we're all of a sudden fixing to be the #1 producer of gas and oil. So what about the Middle East? What about the 1970s? I bet if we all asked Harry Kissinger what happened, he could probably tell us. Because he was the Secretary of State at that time that went over there, made the deal with the oil companies to use our US dollar as the world reserve currency to buy and sell oil only in our dollar. OPEC, we're going to help you guys get your act together. We're going to get you the equipment. We're going to get you set up in the world to be up-and-coming countries. No longer third world status. But the catch is you got to use the US dollar. Or the petrodollar, which is where that term really comes from. So petrodollar equals anyone in the world needs oil. And of course the Middle East is producing it for everybody. You got to buy it with US dollars. That's how our debt became $16 trillion, while the rest of the world looks at that and says we're not even close to that, and somehow doesn't even seem to care. Because the amount of dollars printed around the world to support the whole world needing oil, buying it from the Middle East, would be a significant amount. So if we are going to be the #1 world, in the world oil producer here in the next several years, and gas producer in just the next 3 years, you may want to ask, raise your hand, class here, if we were the whole world was using the US dollar to buy oil from the Middle East, and now we're producing our own oil, what are they going to be buying from the Middle East for? What are they going to be using to buy oil in the Middle East, say in the next 10 years, or less actually, 7 years more like it? What medium of exchange are they going to be using in the Middle East to buy from the Middle East? Probably not the US dollar. And we probably won't care because we have our own pool of oil. It's the same pool or pools of oil we've always had. It was just a national security problem that we had to pretend, as Lindsey Williams said, we had to pretend there was an oil scare, oil shortage, because we were already been programmed for so long that the Middle East is a bunch of bad guys and terrorists and camel jockeys and sand fleas and whatever else. But you guys need oil. We ran out of gas today. There's gas lines for hours. Okay, well in that case, we'll deal with the terrorists. We'll deal with these guys in the Middle East that we've been told our whole lives are terrorists. They're terrorists until we need some oil. When we need oil, they're not quite as terroristy as before. So that's going to go away, as Lindsey Williams said. We are going to default on all that debt that's out there, all those trillions of dollars of bonds we have out there that people such as the Middle East are holding all these years. All we have to do is print US dollars. See, we could default one of two ways. Tell everyone that's holding our bonds, tell everyone that's holding our bonds, you just got a 75% haircut. They're worth 25% less. Just like that. Or, since we have a printing press over here, we just we fire up that printing press and put it on overdrive, turbo mode. Printing press, turbo mode, compliance, and then it starts printing. And then we take that money and say, hey, everyone that's holding our debt, Middle East, and here you go. Here's all the money we owe you. We just printed it, and our dollar's just been completely devalued out of control. But we did print what we owed you. Have a nice day. And then we can get off of our old dollar and create a new dollar. Just like that. And do you think the rest of the world that got screwed on us devaluing our dollar on them is going to say, hey, we'd like to buy some of your oil, America, for your new currency, even though you screwed us with your old currency? No. No, America's not going to look too much like the old beacon of light or freedom or anything that we've been programming the world to think anyways. Most of the world already knew we weren't. It's just that we have CNN and Fox News and everything over here telling us we are the beacon of hope and freedom and we're the greatest nation on the earth and all these other nations are crap and terrorists and this and that. And believe me, their news media is telling them the same thing about us, opposite or whatever, that we are the terrorist nation of the world and such and such. And unfortunately, based off of my research, they're probably a little more accurate with what they teach their people about us than what we teach our own people about ourselves. From our rigged elections, the wars in the Middle East, the wars everywhere, the 187 whatever different military bases we have all over the world. As I said the other day, the statistics I read you guys were like number 22nd in freedom of press, number 22nd in like true freedom or whatever it is of, I can't remember off the top of my head or whatever, but I mean there's a bunch of statistics I read. You can't have that and be the number one superpower. If you're the number one superpower in the world, you're going to be like the top 3 of everything. You may not be number 1 obviously all the way down, but you're going to be the top 3 or even the top 5 for God's sakes in every category, for the most part. And that was not even close to the case that I read to you guys the other day on you know, what we all thought about America and the statistics of it all. So let me finish reading and see where this little article takes us. In the World Energy Outlook report released by the International Energy Agency, or IEA, yesterday, the U.S. is expected to reverse years of being a net importer of energy to a net exporter of natural gas by 2020. It also boldly projects that the United States will be self-sufficient in its energy needs by 2035, overtaking Saudi Arabia as the largest oil producer by 2020, and overtaking Russia as the largest gas producer by 2015. This comes on the back of new extraction techniques. You know that's probably what it is. It's a new technique. Kind of like, oh, I could actually fit more food in my stomach when I have a new technique of holding my spoon. See, I used to hold it like this. Now I hold it like a shovel and go like this, and oh, it's a phenomenal technique. I can just shovel more food down my mouth, as if that's gonna like change, you know, new worldwide technique all of a sudden. Right? Okay, yeah. New techniques, same oil, new techniques to get it out of the ground. Wait a minute. We've been told that there's not enough oil in the ground, not that new techniques are needed to get it out of the ground. It's not what we've been told. But this is news, and news is propaganda, so they have to massage your mind for you to let you know, hey, this is just a reason why everything that we've taught you over the last 40 years is about to not make sense. And we're going to reverse everything we told you by releasing slow release of news stories to make you think all of a sudden we're energy independent and we're getting back on #1 slot again and this and that, etc. Why would we need to get back on the #1 slot? I thought we already were #1. Why do we have to do? Why do we need to go get all this oil? We already have our status in the world. Why do we need to do this if there's not an agenda, as Lindsey Williams said, who also said the United States would be the big producer of oil? These news stories of the last few days, just the last few days, absolutely has now confirmed what he said. Wow, imagine that. He's right again. This comes in the back of new extraction techniques and the shale gas revolution that have yielded higher energy resources in domestic locations such as the Bakken Shale. Oh, I think he mentioned that too, Lindsey. in Eagle Ford in the United States. Techniques such as hydraulic fracturing and horizontal drilling have elicited major environmental opposition, including upcoming Hollywood movie Promised Land featuring Matt Damon, blah blah whatever, but is expected to revolutionize the geopolitical landscape in the U.S. as the U.S. weans itself off Middle Eastern oil. Lindsey Williams, 100% right again. Going to be right again. This is the beginning news phase of start rolling the news, start getting that back in the American people's mind. We're finding some oil. We've got new techniques. Don't let these damn sheeple know we've been sitting on the damn oil for 40 years. Just put a cap on it. It's on standby. Don't you dare run that story. Tell them we've got new techniques and ways of extracting it out of the ground. Maybe use some little high-profile keywords that sound good to make them believe it. Great. Run those news stories. Run the propaganda mills. Go, go, go. The IEA projects that U.S. oil production will peak at 11.1 million barrels a day by 2020, while domestic imports will drop by more than half to 4 million barrels a day in that same time frame. In contrary, the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia is expected to produce only 10.6 million barrels a day in 2020. However, and here's that propaganda, as the U.S. weans off its addiction of Middle Eastern oil, Asia will soon see its dependence grow. The IEA projects that Asia will absorb up to 90% of all Middle Eastern oil by 2035, as North America grows self-sufficient in its energy needs. This raises questions of America's commitment to protect key energy shipping routes that its Navy currently patrols. The change in energy dynamics should sound warning bells to countries that are dependent on America's patrol of the South China Sea and the Persian Gulf due to its current strategic importance as a major shipping lane. Nevertheless, the projected increase in supply and energy production will have a dramatic long-term effect on different industries. Energy exploration and production companies that are dependent on high oil prices will see its margin grow narrower as the influx of energy needs drive prices down. That last paragraph, listen, whoever wrote this story, you got most of the propaganda right. Propaganda. But that last sentence, energy prices aren't really coming down. See, then again, actually, you know what? You could actually be right. You know, you could actually be right. You're just looking at future prices and not mentioning what the future prices are going to be. And as Lindsey Williams said, before we see all this take place, we're going to see somewhere between $6, $7, maybe $8 a gallon gas in America during the crises phase of weaning ourselves off the Middle East, as well as, of course, which includes defaulting on the debt, by the way. Prices will skyrocket. People are going to go crazy. Oh my God, how are we going to do this? We can't survive. Our economy can't survive. And it is my belief, because of keywords Ben Bernanke said a year and a half, maybe 2 years ago. I've mentioned this several times. When he was in front of Congress talking about all the QE and the tools that he has in the toolbox, and we can help the recovery, whether it's slow or not, we can still at least help it and make it happen. We've got more tools. Unless we can sustain this, unless, he said, in front of Congress, unless gas prices, oil, he said, barrel of oil was to go, say, above around $120 a barrel and be sustained there for a length of time, you know, not a week or two, but a little bit of a length of time. That would completely stop the recovery. We would not be able to do anything about that. That's what he said to Congress. So if he said that, you can be rest assured we're not going to blame this on the bankers. Those are our pals, of course. We can't blame this whole destruction of the economy on the bankers, the ones who are really at fault. No, we have to do the old sleight of hand. And the sleight of hand says, guys, the Middle East blew up on us and the oil is 100 and something, 50, 150, 180, 200, whatever, somewhere around there, a barrel, dollars a barrel. It's unsustainable. Our economy is suffering. We can't do this. The president has just passed an emergency drill order. When he passed that drill order, oh my God, we found a massive pool or 2 or 3 of oil. We didn't know it was there. We had no idea it was that big. God has shined his light down on America. Everyone sing your song, God bless America. Because the 180 whatever it is dollars a barrel oil that destroyed the whole economy, we were able to default on the debt because we could not sustain those prices. So the whole world, we defaulted on the debt on them. And right after we defaulted on the debt, then we found that oil. Man, I wish we would have found that oil prior to defaulting on the debt. Sorry, whole world. Sorry. Day late, a dollar short on that one. We're really sorry. We wish we would have found the oil prior to defaulting on our debt, but we didn't. I'm sorry about that. That's how it's going to go. So, $6, $7, $8 at the gas pump, what this article probably should have said, it just didn't want to let you know that's where prices were going. They will come down to about where they are now, $4 a gallon. Well, they're lower now because we had a nice little election going on. They had to drop gas prices, which is another amazing thing. There were places where I saw gas almost touching $2 a gallon. Like literally $3.12 or something like that. I mean, it was very low. And low in the $3 range. Right, but 4 years straight, we've never seen gas prices like this, of course. Literally, a couple weeks or so before the election takes place, man, gas prices are down. And that's amazing how so many sheep look at that as like a winning factor to vote for a president. I've had so many people tell me in the past when we start talking about politics and presidents and this and that, well, and this is the typical line I get. Well, all I know is gas prices were like $1.50 under Clinton. Well, all I know is gas prices were such and such under Clinton. You know, he's all right in my book. He's all right in your book. You know, oh, hey, under Bush, man, when Bush first took off, all I know is when Bush was in office, gas prices were low, so he's my guy. I'll vote for him again. Forget the Patriot Act. Forget that. Forget the massive spending on war, the no-bid contracts to Halliburton, the massive cover-ups they got, you know, involved in, and all executive status on this, executive status on that. You can't read it. We're not gonna tell you what's happening. You know, all kinds of scandals that were when he was in office, just like every president. Forget all that. All I know is gas prices were $1.50 or whatever the hell when so-and-so was in office. If that's the kind of people around me that are looking at that as the important key factor of choosing a president, we're in deep trouble. Well, I think you already know we're in deep trouble. We've been there for a while. So it is critical that the masses wake up and come, and they have to understand it's not the president. If a president can simply run again and gas prices completely drop drastically, what happened to supply and demand? What happened to these prices on Wall Street? Did a bunch of Wall Street executives and traders and too big to fail banks that are out there massively trading oil to push the prices up, of course, get a change of heart? President's being reelected. Hey, what time is it? Oh, it's election time. Let's go ahead and take a beating on some of our profit here. Massive beating on our profit since there's a presidential election. That sounds like a good idea. Well, all of a sudden they're not corporations. All of a sudden they don't have shareholders to tend to make sure they're getting their great profit return because of a presidential election. And even if they did, hey, how is it that they single-handedly can cause prices to come down? I thought somebody called Donald Trump. Donald Trump, I've heard you say numerous times, well, I'll tell OPEC what they could do with the price. Well, I'll bring that prices down if I was president. Really? You're going to tell OPEC what you're going to pay for a barrel of gas. Well, that's funny, because the current president, the current Congress, doesn't tell OPEC what they're going to pay for a gallon of gas or a barrel of oil. It's said on Wall Street every day. You know, your pals right down the street from where your buildings are in New York, where your gold-plated apartment everything's gold. I love gold. I love the smell of it, the taste of it, the texture. That was from Austin Powers, in case you didn't know. Yeah, I'd like to see you tell OPEC what you're going to pay for that, Mr. Trump. Okay. So anyways, confirmation, Lindsey Williams, absolutely going to be spot on. They're already now, just as of days ago, now rolling the stories. They are now rolling the stories of U.S. all of a sudden becoming a bigger player, exporter of oil, where new techniques are to be blamed for this, which is a good reason to blame them. And new techniques are the reason. Right, okay, I get it. It is a shame that this is the kind of world we live in, where it's just a bunch of politicians in every country, but the country that's the superpower is the one that's calling the shots and is usually the worst tyrant of all of them. And we've just been blinded to see that our country has that role at this point in history of the world. I mean, when I'm driving, I'm looking around right now, I don't see IEDs going off. I don't see, you know, Middle Eastern people shooting, and, you know, I don't hear bombs. I don't see, you know. What a bozo. See, when a school bus stops on the other side of the road, you're supposed to stop. Unless it's a thick median. So I just had some bozo fly by me like nothing. But you see, old J Snip 4 is not a cop. Even though I drive an ex-cop car, I do have a PA that I use in this thing that has a horn on it. No siren or nothing. It's not like I can go I can't chase the guy down, you know what I mean? Can't do that. But I can't honk at him like he's some kind of bozo. Anyways, that's all I wanted to really share with you. And let you know that Lindsey Williams basically is spot on. Take care.